Hello everyone, this is going to be a little bit of a different video. A few weeks ago I went to Burning Mountain and I wanted to share my experience going there. As you can see, I went by train and that's actually the fastest way to get there because the connection is very good, both going from Italy to Switzerland as well as inside of Switzerland itself. In fact, it is almost shocking how small of the towns are served by the Swiss train network. But that made it very easy for me to get there, and after having taken the shuttle bus I was able to set up my camp with one of my students, Yannis. We had organized before and we both knew from each other that we were going, so we decided to just team up with each other, and him together with another friend and me formed a little bit of a group there and we decided to stick together. Now this was my very first multi-day experience in terms of going to a festival. I've been to many different clubs here in Italy where Psytrance is played as well as in Budapest, but all of those events were one evening events only. And obviously the setting was completely different. Now talking about the setting, I just quickly want to highlight the overall way that the festival setting was built up. You had this kind of wheel structure kind of spiking out of the main stage and into the campsite, and one of those spikes contained a lot of the shops, while the other spike at the other end contained the other two stages that were present there. Obviously the main stage was the place to be. That was not only the biggest stage but also the stage where all of the artists performed that I really wanted to see. I will get to the different artists in a little bit, but I first quickly want to talk about the other two stages as they were also very interesting. Now I don't really have any good footage of the secondary stage. The only thing that I can talk about really is the fact that it was basically a circus tent with inside all of these extra colored cloths hanging from the roof. And overall the type of psytrance that was played here was a little bit darker and a little bit more aggressive, fitting with the darker theme of the stage itself. The final stage that was there was a kind of slower techno stage. There was a little bit more variance in the acts here as well. And overall in terms of settings, it was a semi-closed tent in the sense that it was basically a big tarp being hung over a couple of poles. And then from there you basically had the opening on all three sides that you could walk under, while the fourth side was closed where the DJ booth was. And obviously also here plenty of other things were prepared and hung up around to make the whole experience more colorful and just overall more aesthetically pleasing. Now the main artist that I wanted to see was Outsiders. I've been a big fan of them for a very long time. In fact, their track Spiral of Colors is probably the second track that I started listening to regularly in terms of psytrance music. Now overall Burning Mountain is a little bit more progressive than the type of music that I usually listen to and like, but there was actually a nice combination of during the daytime more progressive sounds and during the nighttime more the sounds that I like to listen to. Now some of the other highlight artists were Adja, Avalon, Arjuna, Bliss, Blastoise, Fabio Fusco, Silent Sphere, Omniki, Neelix, Ghost Rider, and obviously a lot more. I'll see if I can find a whole picture of all of the artists that came there, a whole lineup somewhere, so I can just show you that on the screen. When it comes to other activities that there were to do, there was a lot of things that were organized. In fact, there was a whole nother stage which was just a chill room, and you had anything from live music to yoga to workshops to whatever you really wanted to do. Again, I'll see if I can find somewhere a list of all the activities so that I can show that on the screen. Now something that I want to tackle was the incredible stage design that they had this year. Obviously, in preparing for going to the festival, I had a look at what the stage looked like last year, and I really didn't expect the upgrades that we've gotten this year. Not only did I find that the tent looked a lot nicer, but the stage itself was made out of wood instead of the kind of classical colored panels that you see in a lot of other stages. And we actually got the pleasure to see a lot of the testing that they were doing in terms of the different visuals that they wanted to show before the show even started. The reason for that is the main stage didn't open up until the second night, and that meant that for the first night, obviously they were preparing and we got to see a little bit of that, but also we had a lot of time exploring the other rooms. Now from the opening on Friday up until basically the very end of the festival, even on the Sunday morning, we essentially spent all of our time on the main stage. Sometimes we wandered off a bit, but we didn't really spend any time in the other stages. And in fact, we had kind of taken a specific spot within the tent where we would always kind of find each other, and if we were ever lost, we would eventually just end up there all together and would continue dancing from there and just do whatever we were doing. This made organizing very easy because it was very easy to just walk away if things got a little bit too out of hand, if you were maybe a little bit tired or you needed to go pee or you needed to go eat something or drink something. It was really easy to just leave the dance floor for a bit and know that you have a spot where you can just come back and the people that you were with were also there still. So a big recommendation that I have if you're going to festivals with other people is to have a spot like that where you're generally going to stay, so that anytime somebody leaves and they get lost, they actually have a place to go to, and there's a likelihood that they will find some of the people that they're with. Now, another tip that I want to give is that you need to be specifically prepared for very, very low temperatures. We had temperatures below 10 degrees during the nights, and that is something that I definitely did not expect and wasn't actually well prepared for. Obviously, I had read a little bit about the location and I knew that it was in the mountains. I have a lot of experience living in the mountains. I've been living in the mountains for 10 years in Italy here, but obviously not all of the time. I've spent some time in Cremona now, and I've spent some time in Budapest. So in total, I would say like 8 years of living in the mountains. But I hadn't looked up the actual height of the festival, and it was at 1400 meters, while I'm used to living in 500 to 600 meters. And obviously you can imagine that there's going to be a pretty big difference there in nightly temperature. Also, overall, the weather wasn't quite the best. We had better weather on Saturday as well as Sunday. But on the first day we basically had a storm, and on the second day it was always cloudy and always chance of a little bit of rain, especially in the morning. However, I do have to say that these temperatures, these conditions where there's a little bit of rain and there's a little bit of kind of shade from the clouds is actually very nice to dance in. If you're going to be dancing for long amounts of times, then I actually prefer that over just fully blasting in the sun. Even though there's a tent overhead, sometimes you can just hit a spot where there's a little bit of an opening in the tent and you just have the sun shining in your neck for a little bit of time, and that can get very, very hot and annoying very quickly. Now, in terms of food and buying other things, obviously the festival terrain itself was very, very expensive, as they usually are. I did sometimes get a snack there at one of the stands or a little bit of a drink, but we usually got all of our stuff from the supermarket, which was in Zernez itself. Now, that was roughly 1.5 kilometers of walking distance. There was also a shuttle bus available for 20 franc if you wanted to, but we always chose to go by foot. One of the things though is that in the town during the festival there were police checks, so if you're planning on going and you find yourself in the town, make sure that you don't have anything on your person that they can arrest you for or that they can check you out for. On the festival terrain itself, nobody was making any trouble with that kind of thing. The only thing that they didn't allow was glass bottles as well as hard liquor. The glass bottles were so that there were no shards anywhere on the terrain, and the hard liquor, for obvious reasons, they just didn't want to deal with drunk people. Other than that, light alcohol like beer and wine was completely okay. Now, before I go into a final rating and review, I just quickly want to say that there is one more space if you're ever going to a festival like this that you have to check out, and that is going to be the chai stand. Chai is kind of like a tea drink with the milk as well as sugar as well as a masala mix, so a spice mix already brewed into the tea. Imagine sweet tea with milk but a little bit spicier and just a little bit different. You can definitely taste that it's not just tea, but it definitely has those kind of qualities. And obviously getting a nice warm drink at night when it's very, very cold is always very comforting. Overall, when it comes to a general view, I do have to say that it was all quite overwhelming, being my first big real event. So I don't know if I wasn't seeing things because I wasn't taking things in fully, if there were annoying things that I was ignoring because I was having such a good time in the rest of the time. But recalling back now as I'm talking here, I cannot really find any one negative experience that I had that I would really describe to like the festival being mal-organized or something being weird or something not being thought through. Just being there, everything made sense, and it just felt like these people definitely knew what they were doing in terms of organizing a party. To give you a few examples of that, to combat trash, one, they had a company called Cyclean, which I'd never heard of. They specifically provide cleaning services all throughout the festival. So even while the festival is going, there's constantly people making sure that there isn't too much trash building up in any of the trash cans or on the ground or stuff like that. And also they gave each of the attendants a trash bag, and if you got a full trash bag, you could get your money back on the trash bag. There was a small deposit of 10 francs that you had to put down for the trash bag, and if you gave back a full trash bag at the end of the festival, you would get your money back. Other than that, you were also provided with a portable ashtray, which was basically a small little container that you could put roughly 10 to 20 cigarette butts in or whatever you were smoking in, and then you could dump it out all at once so that you didn't just have to throw them on the ground. What that meant for overall cleanliness experience is that you could basically walk everywhere barefoot, which is really, really cool. So overall, it's a great experience. I highly recommend it to everyone. Obviously, this year they made a big improvement. The artist lineup were strong. Also, one of the things that I forgot to talk about was the visual aspect. The person providing the visuals was flown in from Brazil, and you could definitely tell that he was delivering some high quality work because the visuals were really amazing, very highly detailed. It is almost scary that a projector covering that big of an area in terms of just the whole service area of a stage like this. In this case, there were 2 projectors, so each one was doing half of it. You could still see details details in the faces that they were projecting on different parts of the stage. So overall, great experience. I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it to basically everybody watching this channel, because obviously Psytrance is really only the thing that I do. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to a festival like that, I would definitely recommend it, and I'm probably going to go back next year. Hopefully I can see a couple of you guys then. For now, this is going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed this little review, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.